I'm Adaline Bebo, and believe it or not, I was not always naturally flexible. I had to do a lot of stretching in order to be as flexible as I am today, and ironically, these days I seem to be known for my flexibility. Today, I'm going to be sharing some tips and strategies to help you improve your flexibility for your splits, thereby improving your illusions, leaps, kicks, as well as a multitude of other twirling skills. We've got a lot to get through, so let's get to stretching. To develop flexibility for our front split, we're going to focus on two main muscle groups. The first of which is the hamstring, or the back of the leg, and the second of which is the hip flexor, or the front. When you're doing your front splits, your front leg is going to be stretched through the hamstring, and your back leg is going to stretch right here through the front hip flexor. So we're really going to hone in on those two muscles to help develop our flexibility for our front splits. Before we dive into the splits exercises, it's really important that we start with warm muscles. So I'm going to give you a quick little flow routine that you can go through in order to really open them up and get them all nice and warm before we do the splits. To begin, I'm going to start shoulder width apart. I'm going to reach up and out. I'm going to flow through this flat back position before going down into this folded over position. While I'm here, I'm going to take a great big deep breath in and out as I relax. I'm going to grab my elbows with my hands in order to really maximize this stretch. I'm going to go from here, I'm going to give it a nice deep plie, and then I'm going to lead with my chin up first. I'm going to lead with my chin looking up. My hands are going to go up my shins to my knees. From here, I'm again in that flat back position. You should really feel this opening up behind your legs. I'm going to fold back down. Same thing one more time. Lead with my chin up first, and then back down. From here, I'm going to rotate to the right, so both of my toes are going to be pointed to the right here. That way, I can get a good stretch of both of my legs as I'm facing this direction. You should really feel this through your back leg especially. So while I'm here, I'm going to try to push my belly button down to my thigh. You don't want to just curve forward. That's going to hinder your stretch. What you want to do is you want to push your lower spine forward through your belly button, really getting that good arch. And I'm going to switch and go to the other side. So now to the left side, again, you should really feel it, especially through that back leg here, pushing my belly button down first, really opening up those muscles. Then I'm going to go back through center, deep plie, and roll up. Now we're ready to get started on our splits exercises. The first exercise that we're going to do to really stretch out both our hamstring and our hip flexor is a runner's lunge. So to do this, I'm going to go into one deep lunge with my right leg forward first. When I'm here, I really want to make sure that my knee is directly over my ankle. You don't want to be too far forward because that's not going to give you the best stretch through your hips. You want to be directly over that ankle and the knee. From here, you also want to make sure that back leg is super straight. If your knee is bent, you're going to decrease the amount of stretch that you get through your hip flexor. So straightening it is also the key. While I'm here, I'm going to do a couple of different things. The first exercise we're going to do is I'm going to put both of my hands up on my knee and find my balance and try to keep my chest up as tall as possible. So really lengthening through my spine, keeping my back leg super straight. And again, you don't want to be pushed forward over that ankle. You want to just be standing nice and tall and balanced. You should really feel this through that hip flexor and through the front of your hip as well. The next exercise while you're in this runner's lunge is to drop your back leg down. So now my left knee is on the ground, my right leg is still forward. I'm going to reach back with my right hand and grab my left foot. From here, I'm going to pull this right shoulder right here to my right knee, and I really want to make sure that I'm leaning forward, I'm pushing my hips forward, and I'm not on top of my kneecap. If you're on top of your kneecap, not only are you damaging your knee, but you're really not getting a good stretch. So pushing that hip forward, up and over that knee is the key to this stretch, really lengthening that hip flexor. Going from that runner's lunge, I'm simply going to rock back onto my back knee here. My front leg is going to be nice and straight, and I'm going to put both hands forward, one hand on either side of my leg, and I'm again going to be pushing forward through my belly button first. Touching your nose to your knee is great. but you're really not getting a great stretch. But if you push your belly button down to your thigh, you get a nice stretch to the back of your leg, which is exactly the stretch that we need to prepare for our splits. So this stretch is super important, and while I'm here, I'm going to do a couple of push-ups, but they're not normal push-ups. I don't really like push-ups. These are the only push-ups you'll ever see me do, but these will really help maximize that stretch. So while I'm here, I'm just gonna bend my elbows down, bringing my chest closer to my knee, and then straighten, and bend, and straighten. You can do however many you're comfortable with. I recommend starting with about 5 a day and building up from there. This should give you a nice start to warming up the backs of those knees. Also, while I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and sit back onto this back leg. My right leg is still extended forward, but from here, I'm going to reach forward toward my leg. This is again going to be a nice opening hamstring stretch. And while you're here again, you don't want to be curved forward, but I recommend imagining like you're trying to push your chin to your ankle. This not only elongates your spine, but it gives you a much deeper stretch, a little bit closer to the back of your knee. This is a kind of a difficult place to stretch at times, so this is a really great stretch to begin opening it up. The next stretch I'm going to do is going to open up through your glute and in your hip. This is a really underestimated aspect of your splits. Sometimes you don't realize that your hips are involved, but this will really help open them up to help your splits in your illusions and in your leaps and kicks. So from here, I'm going to bend my right knee forward, right in front of me, and I'm actually going to rock my hips up and over the top of my legs. But my back leg should be doing what's similar to a split, but my front knee is bent forward and in toward me. You should begin feeling this on this outside part of your hip, as well as feeling a stretch through your hip flexor on your left leg. I'm going to go ahead and lean forward onto my elbows. I can hold this for a little bit, and then I will also be able to come up and walk my hands backward, again giving my hip flexor here in the front a nice good stretch. From here, I typically recommend that you go ahead and straighten your front leg and just attempt your front split. A couple of important things to note: that while you're in the splits and you're trying to increase your flexibility, it's important that you keep your back leg straight at all times. So even if you're not all the way down, if you have your knee bent up, what you're doing is you're just preventing that stretch. So it's really important that you have your back leg nice and extended in order to allow gravity to do all the work and really stretch through those hips. It's also important that you have one hand on either side to make sure that you're not rotating out of your hips, but that you're staying nice and square to the front. And your goal is to have your hands as close to your hips as possible. Of course, you can have them a little bit further forward if you need to, but what will allow you to get a much deeper stretch and allow gravity to come straight down onto your torso and into your hips, where you get that good split stretch. You really want to make sure that those hands are nice and tight right on either side of your hips. Of course, in order to get an even better stretch, you can walk those hands back as you get more and more flexible, or you can walk your hands forward to get that forward stretch. But that all comes with time and consistency while building up the flexibility to do splits. This next stretch is going to specifically target your hip flexors and the fronts of your legs as you stretch. From here, I'm going to be up on my toes with my knees directly out in front of me. I'm going to walk my hands behind me and push my knees toward the ground. I'm going to kind of alternate, pushing one hip down and then the other. What this is doing is this is really opening up that front muscle in my hip flexor that's connecting right there into my quad. And it's going to open that up nice and slowly by pushing one knee down toward the ground and then the other. This is one of my favorite stretches that I always make sure to do in order to prevent injury, especially when doing lots and lots of illusions. So it can be a huge help to add this into your stretching routine. Next up, we're going to be doing some laying stretches. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down on my back. I have my left foot in this kind of butterfly position to begin with, just so it's nice and comfortable. So I'm going to start with my right leg. To begin these, I'm going to reach up and grab my right leg with my right hand right around my ankle. I'm going to have my left hand on my knee to help me brace as I bend nice and softly, trying to keep my leg in one position, my knee in one position, and then straighten it, and bend, and straighten. You should really feel this stretch up the very middle of the back of your leg. If you have your foot turned out or brought out to the side, you won't feel it up the middle. Also, if you have it across, you're going to feel it, which is usually a lot tighter and more difficult, but you'll feel it more on the outside. You want to be able to feel it right at the middle, and this stretch will really help lengthen and open up that hamstring muscle. So just sitting here doing, I would say 5 to 10, just where you slowly bend and straighten. This is a great exercise to do while you're hanging out in bed or while you're watching TV. You know, it doesn't take a whole lot of thought, but it can really help you open up and lengthen your hamstring muscle. If you're having trouble reaching your ankle here at the beginning as you're beginning to incorporate this stretch, you can also take a towel. I have this nice long one, and it allows me to go right around my foot, attach it to my heel, and I can hold on to it using the towel. This is just as effective, especially if you're just starting out and you're not quite flexible enough to grab your ankle. This is one way that you can begin to incorporate it into your stretching routine. So up to this point, we've done a lot of static stretches or slow stretches, but next up, we're going to warm up those muscles even further using some dynamic stretches or some fast kicking stretches. So again, I'm going to begin by laying down on the ground in the same kind of position, but this time I'm going to have my bottom leg extended out with my kicking leg. I'm going to have one hand on either side of my body kind of spread out in order to brace myself so I'm not wobbling all over the place. And I'm just going to kick my leg straight up. And again, you want to make sure that it's not to the right or to the left, that you're kicking directly straight up in front of you and then controlling it all the way down. So I'm going to kick and control it down so I'm not slamming my leg down on the ground. You should really feel this up the back of your leg and even through your knee and maybe at the top of your calf as well as you begin these stretches. This is really critical to a different kind of stretching to help elongate those muscles in the back of your leg. I would start with between 5 and 8 as you begin incorporating these into your daily routine and work up to doing anywhere around 30 with time. One of my very favorite split stretches is wall splits. So for this, I'm gonna have my back starting against an open wall and I'm going to have my heel pressed against the wall. I'm gonna fold my body forward and use my palms to support myself, and then I'm gonna inch my back leg up the wall. It's really important that your leg be straight up and down and that it's not out to the side. This will inhibit your ability to feel that stretch. So you really wanna make sure that it's straight up and down. From here, I'm gonna push off of the palms of my hands and I'm going to try to lift my hips closer to the wall, really getting a good stretch. If you have your splits all the way down, you can also pull your foot a little bit away from the wall to get a nice overstretch. And again, this really allows you to be able to control exactly how much pressure you're putting on those muscles and getting into that split stretch. As opposed to when you do a regular flat stretch on the ground, your gravity is going to be right over your torso and it's going to really dictate exactly how much pressure you're putting on those muscles. This wall split is a nice alternative to be able to be in control of exactly how much stretch you want. Lastly, this is my split stretching secret weapon. It's over splits. If you're just starting out with over splits, I recommend that you find a rather small elevated surface to begin with, and then from there you can work your way up to higher surfaces. A couple elevated surfaces that might be best would be a stair step or a low chair or even just a stack of books. In order to really make it comfortable, I also like to put a folded towel underneath my heel. I just have a yoga stretching semicircle here that I'm going to use today. I like to put a towel underneath my heel to make sure that it's not too uncomfortable for my foot. I'm going to have my front foot right up on the top of the surface. I'm going to put my hands just like a normal split, one on either side, and then I'm going to slowly slide into my split stretch. Of course, I've developed this flexibility quite a bit over time, so this is fairly easy for me, but trust me, I understand that it's not that easy at first. But again, similar to our regular stretch, it's important that you don't leverage your weight on top of a bent knee on that back leg, but that your back leg is as straight as you can get it. I know it might feel kind of tense, but straightening that leg is how you're going to get the best stretch possible. Again, your goal should be to have your hands as close to your hips as possible as you're getting this stretch in order to really maximize the depth of the stretch. And when you feel comfortable, I recommend that you at least reach up and grab the elevated surface and try to hold it for at least 5 seconds. One of my best stretching tips is to breathe through your stretches. So while I'm here, I like to take a great big deep breath in, and as I breathe out, I imagine sending the air to wherever it's tight. What this does is this allows the muscles to open up and relax, and thereby not tense up and resist the stretch, which can cause additional pain. So by relaxing into these stretches, you'll not only get a deeper stretch, but it should feel a little bit more comfortable. keeping in mind that consistency is key. By improving your flexibility, you're unlocking your potential. I hope that you learned a couple of new exercises to incorporate into your own stretching routine today. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to drop them below for me. While you're there, like and subscribe to my channel, and until next time, work hard and be bold.